That's waits. And Thompson scores!
Massaba's in the middle. Wednesday here could seal it. Gassman finds Masaba.
Now Bannon with a great ball in. Here's an opportunity. Palmer scores! Liam Palmer has scored for Sheffield Wednesday.
How many times am I going to utter the words, play like that and we'll win more games than we lose? It's every single week. Once again, we're great between both boxes. Once again, defensive mistakes have cost us. Once again, we've conceded 3 or more goals away from home. Switching off, making it far too easy for the opposition to score. Hello and welcome to Wednesday Tie-Dye Podcast. I'm James Mappin. Alongside me, as he always is Mr. Matt Johnson. Matt, how's things? All good?
Yeah, not too bad, James. Thank you. Yeah, not too bad at all. Been dealing with a 4-year-old with chickenpox all week, so yeah, it's been great fun in the house here. My son took it very personally when I decided to start drawing dot to dots on him.
I feel your pain.
I would say, James, to be honest, he started it. He started drawing the dot to dots on himself, and then I went, "Oh, let me have a go." That was it. Fucking meltdown.
Hey, do you know what? I've seen some quote-unquote art in my time, and you never know, you could end up as the next Picasso or something like that. So,
yeah.
But yeah. Matt, as much as we all prefer Saturday 3 o'clock games, have you managed to get much done over the weekend? Because it does feel weird when there is no football, well, certainly no football that you actually care about come 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, isn't it?
It does help a little bit, apart from the fact that it's completely thrown my weekend off, because I'd messaged you and I thought it was in my head for some reason today would have been Monday, because I thought it was Saturday. It's really thrown me off. But then I put that down to half term. My brain has gone to absolute mush. I will click into gear at some point during next week. I'm kind of undecided on kind of the structure of the championship this year in terms of the games and all the rest of it. And I did a preview show with the Burnley pod in the week, and I said that I'm not entirely sold on it, because I think we've only had, is it 6 3 p.m. Saturdays at Hillsborough over the course of this season?
It's not many, is it?
No, it's not many. And I just kind of sit there and just think I'm weighing it up, because I don't mind evening games. I thought the atmosphere on Friday night was fantastic, and there was a lot of noise being made by Wednesday fans on Friday, but I do hasten to add that I don't think the monetary value that EFL Championship clubs have received, like the £7 million fee, is worth all of the extra hassle that it puts kind of like your everyday match going fan through. Yeah, I'm not sold on it, to be honest with you, James.
Yeah, it did mean that I could get the garage sorted out as well yesterday. That was
great.
And do you know what as well? When it went many times to the tip. What is it? I don't know if it's just a guy thing or not, but why is it that you have to throw things as far and as hard as you possibly can when you're chucking things away? Like, it doesn't matter what it is, you have to just absolutely launch it, and you try and smash it into as many pieces as you possibly can. It's just like you can't.
Becomes your own rage room.
It does. You can't just place it in, can you? You like launch it, and you. Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't do myself or any other person some injury there. But anyway, that's by the by. Let's get into actual football talk. Before we do, we've got a few comments. I wasn't going to read this one, but it's actually quite complimentary of us. Yeah, it's from I want to say Eve, or maybe it's just electrical vehicle charging. I have no idea.
Yeah, Ev. Sorry, mate.
From a blade, I was really impressed with how good Wednesday were in the first half on Friday. Was hoping you were going to do us a favour as well. We've also got one from Daniel. Armstrong scores that chance. It's a completely different game. Yep, totally agree. We're going to drill into that in a bit. Duran said, looking for a positive reaction next Friday and hope for 3 points. How many times have I been looking for this positive reaction? Like, it just seems in their defence, in Wednesday's defence, we haven't gone. Is it other than the opening? Well, other than game week 2, 3, and 4, we haven't lost consecutive games this season. So that does mean against Sunderland, it's either going to be a draw or a win based on previous form. Ben says, have the recruitment team pack so stuff in, man, and whoever else is with him. Beadle, that is, Kevin Beadle. Walked or been sacked yet. Shambolic defending yet again. Yes, we should have been 3 or 4 up, but that defending cost us. Ben, do you know what? I feel like we just blew all this budget on bringing Armstrong in. I really do, and I think they were worried with Bannon. Obviously, in hindsight now, Bannon's seems to be all right. So maybe we kind of brought a bit of covering for him that we now don't need, and then we've lost, Deschamps Bernard as well. So it's probably just the worst possible scenario. But I do get what you mean. Yeah. We needed it wasn't just this window. We needed a centre back. We've needed him for quite a while. And then Owen said, Roll will launch Wednesday as hard as he can into top 6. Owen, I love your enthusiasm, mate. I do. If you need to be careful because you will be labelled a happy clapper soon. I'm just warning you on that one. Let's talk about the game then, and the starting lineup. That's where we always start. Starting lineup. There were 2 changes that was made. When you look at it, Windass came in, so did Smith. Trying to get the lineup on my notes. Notes is not playing ball.
I've got you, James. I'll do this bit for you because you normally do it. So James Beadle in goal, Michael Ehekwe, Jan Valery, Max Lowe, Marvin Johnson, Shay Charles, Barry Bannon, Armstrong, Windass, Gassama and Smith. So the 2 changes that were made for Wednesday were Windass and Smith, and Ingleson and Ugbo brought in.
Yeah, what did you make to that? Because for me, Windass had to come in. I think he was just rested. He obviously played half. He came on at half time, didn't he, against Coventry? It was. He needed to come back in for as well as we played against Coventry. For me, Windass is one of our better players. I know he's not. I think he's not scored since he scored that absolute worlder against Derby, but he does. He has got that in him. Do you know what I mean? He's got that in the locker to actually perform miracles. But what did you think to the changes that were made?
Yeah, I mean, for on the Windass one, the change made complete sense. He lined up on the left as Tom, or TW Football said on the live stream that obviously you guys did on Friday, which was a really good watch for those of you who can bear going back and just listen to the first half. Second half is how it ends up. But yeah, please go back and listen to the first half because Tom does give some absolutely fantastic insights into kind of like in-game changes and stuff. But it did mean a swap of wings for Jeddy Gassama. Obviously, with him going out to the right, with Windass playing on the left. I'm not entirely sold on that. I think Gassama's best work and kind of like best form this season has been off the left, but obviously there were reasons behind that change in trying to provide a little bit of extra cover for Marvin Johnson. As we'll get on to, that didn't really work out too well. And then Michael Smith obviously starting. Again, James, my feelings on this. I did see some criticism for Ike Ugbo online when he came on and like the performance that he had when he came on. I'm just thinking, at what point is it going to start feeling like we're kicking someone so far down the road when he's already in a bottomless pit of lost confidence? Like, when is it going to be a point of, right, lay off it now? Because it's just, I mean, for me, in particular against Coventry at Hillsborough last week, he'd control the ball twice. One of them would go over his foot, and it was like the world was ending. And it feels like I don't want to. You don't want to kind of brand a player with this, but it feels like for some Sheffield Wednesday fans that the boat has already sailed on Ike Ugbo. I'm not saying that we don't all want him to score and we don't all want him to do well. I'm saying that I've been around Sheffield Wednesday long enough to know it's a long road back to change some fans' opinions on you.
Yeah, I can probably count on one hand, Matt, the amount of players that have actually been able to do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I would say Morgan Fox.
Yeah.
He was a scapegoat for a long time. I'm not saying he did it fully, but he managed to kind of, turn it around a little bit. I'm going to say Reece James. I don't think we really hated Reece James that much, did we? But Morgan Fox is the one.
Yeah. Adam Reach to a degree as well. Sorry, James. Yeah. Like, he was a player who was never, ever going to put in a tackle. Like absolutely no danger of that. But because of that, some players branded him as, he's soft, he's this, he's that. And then obviously in that season where he was pivotal and almost playing as a number 10 for us because of the lack of options in midfield, and he had his best season for us that particular season, it still felt like after that there wasn't really much that he could do to change some of those opinions. Yeah,
exactly. So, like I say, it's going to be tough for him because, he set off like a house on fire, didn't he? Last season, and he has just kind of petered off. That one goal in a long, long time. 301 days it is now. Yeah. 302 days it might be now since he last scored against West Brom. But you still have to go back quite a few games for his goal previous to that as well. So it has been a long old time. I know someone corrected me and said, "Oh, you scored against Grimsby," but I mean, even I could score against Grimsby, to be fair. Yeah. So it's not really saying a great deal on that one. I have to agree. We with the whole Smith thing, I said it last week. I've kind of come off that, got off my little box of saying that he needs to start all the time. The only thing I would say on it, and I think someone made this point on the watch along we did on Friday, he said when Smith starts, he does seem to start against the better opposition. The one previous to this was West Brom. West Brom, again, a team in or just outside of the top 6, decent side that he's come up against. When he's been coming off the bench, it has been against some of the lesser sides. Now, I don't know whether the feeling is Ike Ugbo would be even worse against the better sides like a Burnley or a West Brom, therefore play Smith and kind of forced into it that way. I've no idea what Danny Rill's thinking is, but it is a great point that we're all saying that he's not great when he starts. Let's not forget as well, we didn't really want Michael Smith this season at all. No. Do you know what I mean? We all sat here and said, yep, get him off. Derby wants him. Yep, send him to Derby. Not because he's not giving us great service. We just felt like we need to move on from these sorts of players and bring better players in. So maybe that is right. Maybe he's at his ceiling and he's just. I mean, he's having a great season. 8 goals so far. He hopefully he's going to get into double figures before the end of the season. Matt, in terms of the overall thoughts on the game, then I'm just disappointed with the result, but I do think the performance showed a lot of promise, and I'm going to say it wasn't a 4-0 game. I think the Burnley fan Joe, which we'll hear from him a little bit later on, he said that at half time, if you'd said we're going to win this game 4-0, they'd have laughed. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They were getting battered in that first half. They were getting frustrated and everything else. But yeah, we're creating lots of chances. We just can't convert those chances into goals, can we?
No, and I mean, I put out a tweet immediately after the game on Friday that basically just said we're capable of giving anyone in this league a scare, quote unquote, for a period of time in any game. Like if you go back to Leeds, we were capable of it there, and we're capable of remaining and sort of like hanging around in these games against those top 4, top 6 sort of sides. But we're just simply not able to take that next step at this moment in time in both boxes.
Just on that, Matt, we haven't been battered, I don't think, for a long time. If you take away those 3 defeats at the start of the season, I don't think there's been others where we've been, like you just mentioned there, totally out of the game. We haven't just been steamrolled, have we? We've been there or thereabouts, either in the scoreline or in terms of the performance, i.e. on Friday.
Yeah, and I think if you take, like Leeds fans sung our praises after the game, you've mentioned it there, as did West Bromwich Albion fans, saying like we were one of the better top 6 sides that's actually gone to the Hawthorns this season. Coventry did it last week. Coventry fans saying that they basically just mugged us for it. Middlesbrough, add Burnley to that list. But again, now the dust has settled and kind of like the emotion is over from the game on Friday, and you can unpack it kind of without all of that attached to it. From my own personal opinion, at this point in time, that is fine, because it wasn't even 12 months ago at this point where we went to Ipswich and got hit for 6. And it should have been 8. Like that was 6-0, should have been 8. Like that wasn't like we were saying, Leeds should have been 1-0, Burnley should have been maybe 1-0. No, I mean, Ipswich 12 months ago should have been 8. Like they missed a hatful of chances on top of scoring 6. Burnley had 4 shots on target, was it, on Friday, and scored all 4. And we just aren't clinical enough in the important areas where it matters. And that is a boring thing to say, because, again, James, I know me and you, we've been peddling this since the start of the season. Like, it looks great in between both boxes. If we could just fix that, if we could start scoring more goals. The problem is now, at this point in the season, what is the 12 games remaining in the season? With 12 games remaining in the season, you kind of are what you are, like, at this point. And that is a team that is capable of pushing towards top 6 with this manager and what the manager and the coaching staff are dragging out of the players. And I think the players deserve some credit there as well. but ultimately are probably likely to fall short of it. But it's a huge improvement from where we were 12 months ago.
Yeah, Kevin just said Watford, I'm guessing in relation to getting battered. That was 6-0, but it wasn't a 6-0 game. I think they scored every...
Was it 6-2?
6-2, yeah, sorry. Yeah, they scored every shot that they had. And it just, we just kind of fell apart at the end. But, going into half-time, what was the score at half-time?
1-1.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we were more than in that game. We just hit the self-destruct button. But, going at 3-1 up at half-time, again, it's a different story. And we had chances. What I mean is we haven't had a game where we've literally just, had none of the ball, no chances or anything like that.
There is one, James. That one is Sunderland right at the second game of the season.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I said. Other than those three, where we were just way off it massively. Sunderland leads at home the 2-0 because let's face it, we didn't really lay a glove on it. And then the Millwall 3-0 as well. The first half was kind of cagey, but again, the second half it totally got away from us, and we didn't really put any. No. It was weird, that one. That was like kind of it's all right. Sunderland and Leeds are going to be up there. We've got Millwall next.
Yeah, no, I remember.
And then we're thinking, Jesus Christ, 3 defeats on the spit. Is this going to be like last season, with a win at the start? It was a bad old game, that one. Yes, we've got. Dennis said Watford given 2 pens. Yeah, it always helps when there's 2 penalties given.
To be fair, James, I'm not going to change my opinion. Both of those were stonewallers. The Dijon Bernard handball and Dominic Ior for tripping over the lad's feet. Yeah, they're both stonewallers. So yeah, it does help. I agree. It does help, but they were also stonewallers.
We've given away the most penalties in the league.
Shock.
That'll be given the most penalties in the league. You'll never sing that. 5, if anyone's wondering. 4 is the next one. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't convert our chances; they go down the other end, as you've mentioned, and we just get punished. And I felt like in that first half, Matt, we had Burnley where we wanted them. In that opening half an hour, before up until the point where they scored, we were pressing them high, we were putting them under pressure. Their goalkeeper were kicking it out of touch. They were, but I don't think we didn't really challenge the goalkeeper. Then then they start to come into the game, which they're gonna do when you can't really press a team for longer than 20, 25 minutes, maybe half an hour, and then they just they get that one chance, they take the chance really well, that relieves all the pressure, and when we just again as fans just sat thinking how are we losing this game? And it's mad to think that they were. All the talk before the game from the media point of view wasn't how do you win against Burnley. It was how do you score a goal. And I think we showed how to score a goal, but we just couldn't do it ourselves either. What I mean? The chances that we had, I was sat there at half time thinking how were we 1-0 down?
It felt very much like a repeat of or certainly like the last fortnight has been sort of that very much. You mentioned it last week, that Balotelli meme of why always me. Because we'd had, for the first half, I thought Scott Parker was at least very honest in his post-match interview where he came out and basically said, they did something that we were not ready for. And it was something that we weren't ready for as a fan base, really. But I did not have Stuart
What do you mean, a first half performance?
First half performance, but also the way in which that we lined up without out of possession, in particular with kind of like Stuart Armstrong lining up as a second supporting striker, forcing them into wide areas to then play the ball and then cutting off those passing lanes. But again, as you go back and say, James, when it comes down to those kind of final thirds and us being punished, it's those quality in those specific areas or that lack of quality in those areas from our perspective to challenge those teams at the top end of this division. And we also need to start, I would argue, changing our mindset surrounding the Championship, I think, as a fan base, because it feels like just because we're on a good run, we should be able to do this. The Championship is becoming a mini Premier League at the minute. It is becoming its own little mini Premier League, and there are a handful of teams at the top, and it's going to be even worse next year with the sides that are likely to come down, where it isn't on our playing staff at the minute, it isn't on our coaching staff at the minute, because both of them are working their absolute nuts off. But We all know the benefits of spending money at any level or in any walk of life. If you buy money more, if you spend more money, more than likely you get higher quality items or you get higher quality footballers. That isn't a slight on this playing squad because I do think that they're doing really well, but it is about that kind of, there is going to be moments. It was so reminiscent of the game at Hillsborough from earlier in the year where there was not really an awful lot between the two sides over the course of the 90 minutes. It's just they take their chances and we don't.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at it as well. If you're looking on purely on transfermarket.co.uk, it's all in euros, but I'll just use it because it's just easier than converting it right now. 4.75 million euros, apparently, is what we spent. Burnley spent over the course of January and the summer 54.19 million. So you look at that already, and that's 10x. You know what I mean? They spent 10 times as much as what we've spent. So, you know, if you put that in Premier League standards, most clubs in the Premier League are spending around about 50 to 100 million, probably, I'm guessing, on players. That's like the team at the top of the Premier League spending what? You know,
100 million on Jack Grealish, who's a squad player for Man City.
No, but I mean, if they're spending, you know, if they're spending 100 million, it's going to be like what, 1 billion?
Yeah.
I mean, 10 times what a normal Premier League side is spending.
I understand where you're coming from, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So the disparity between the two, that's what we're talking about. Like, so when you say it's like a mini Premier League, you're right, because the teams at the bottom aren't spending as much as the teams at the top, but the difference is 10 times more. I mean, I know obviously, you know, when you look at how much they've sold players for, 107 million they've sold them for. Do you know what I mean? Like, so they're only spending they're spending the money that they've that they've got, and obviously they've kept a lot in the bank and stuff, and they've got parachute payments, and I can keep going on and something else, you know.
And I think the other thing with that is, James, as well, it's not just, I mean, the thing that I think shocked me the most, kind of like when I've started to kind of like view it in that parlance, is it's a reminder that our squad isn't entirely built on players who were just signed in this season. Our squad, you don't start a season completely fresh slate and then bring in 25 new players.
Yeah,
these squads are built with Premier League money. Like, you talk about Burnley, you look at, say for argument's sake, James Trafford in goal. James Trafford was signed last summer for 15 million quid or whatever it was from it was Man City, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was signed for 15 million pound. You look at the defenders, you look at the players who were popped in around him, and again, it's not all down to money, because I don't want this to sound like I'm pissing and moaning about it, because ultimately that is kind of like it's the hand you dealt, effectively, isn't it? And you've got to be smarter about it, but it is also trying to put it into context of the lad who scores the first goal for them, Marcus Edwards, in December was playing Champions League football for Sporting. And he has been allowed to go out on loan to develop with a thought that if Burnley get promoted, they will pay 20, 25, 30 million pound for him. And then hopefully he has a good season for Burnley. They then make that resell through, say, 40 or 50 million or whatever it is. It's a different way of doing business, and it's not the way that we do business, but it's the successful way to do it. Because if, you know, like, again, I'm sure we're going to come on to talk about Sheffield United at some point in the next couple of weeks, because sadly we'll have to. It's my thoughts surrounding them. It's my thoughts surrounding Leeds. It's the same thought. The only anomaly is Luton Town. Yeah. And that is because Luton Town are an anomaly going up and they're an anomaly coming down. Like, it's just, as long as you are half smart, you can't say anything. But it is, I'm just going to highlight this one from Chef Cam here, which is basically this Premier League money is creating a mini 8-team Premier League 2, which will always fight it out at the top of the Championship. And it's going to take something extraordinary to break into that, in my eyes anyway.
Yeah, you're right. Luton did that, didn't they? And then they're back down there again. With Luton, it's a bit different. Obviously, they're using the money to build a new stadium, aren't they? Which fair enough. Like, you know, if that's what they want to do, they're more than within the rights to do that. I mean, just on the chances as well, in terms of taking our chances, the biggest thing for me was I was going into that game feeling that we weren't going to get a great deal out of it. It was going to be a really boring game where Burnley have got much of the ball, and we're just really not, you know, a lot of teams have gone to Turf Moor. A lot of teams have even just played Burnley, you know, even at their place as well, or their own place, and not got anything out of it. They've lost 2 games all season. All right, they might get a draw, but it's a 0-0 more often than not. Like, they don't, you know, they still haven't conceded since before Christmas, which is just a mind-boggling stat. But you look at the chances. Armstrong had one, Windass had one, Michael Hecker had one in the first opening couple of minutes. That it's a bit of a half chance, but it hits the post. It could have been easily 2-0 at half time, but instead we're going in behind. And how many times have we seen that, Matt? Where we're hammering a team 0-0. It's too many times, isn't it?
Yeah, I love that phrase. We're hammering them. What's the score? 0-0.
Sometimes you're watching the game and you think, oh, well, massively on top, and you're feeling confident and stuff. And you look at the scoreboard and go, I could have sworn we scored. They're still only 0-0. And then the other team has a break, and you think, okay, now we could be losing here. Like you kind of get a bit complacent with yourself sometimes. Not saying that's what happened on Friday.
No, James. I understand what you're saying. I think the other thing is the trade-off to that is the past couple of weeks we've sat here and talked about the outstanding defensive efforts of, say, Coventry, West Bromwich Albion, Luton, even when they came to Hillsborough. Like the centre halves and the goalkeeper in particular have had absolute worldies, and they've come away with a win. For the first half an hour, it felt like the Burnley goal was leading an incredibly charmed life. But then when you go into the second half and you look at the chances that we've had, they just keep making the same last-ditch blocks, or there's somebody there just to put a player off and it just puts enough pressure on, or it's a half chance. Like the Michael Hecker one, he does really well, but he's got players closing him down. It comes to him at an awkward height. The only one that you could really say got to score is the Armstrong one, the Stuart Armstrong one. He's got to score, and he does everything right. Like everything right, tries to guide it into the far corner, ghosts off his man, free in the area. But that was the only real untested or unchallenged shot that we had on goal. Even the Windass one at the back in the second half, where it falls to him at the back post, is it Connor Roberts who flies in front of him and it comes off the top of his shoulder? When we go back to earlier on in the season, that was very much how we were defending. The problem is, you're talking quality of players here, and it is those fine margins of the better players consistently get themselves into just the right area. And you need, ultimately as well, James, doesn't matter how well you play, you need a bit of luck to get promoted. You do. I mean, we rode our luck at times in League One in particular. You do need a bit of luck, but a solid defensive structure, it just breeds that confidence and belief, doesn't it, within a side that, no, this isn't going in tonight. And then you get on a run like they are on now. I think they're two games away from equaling Manchester United's all-time record.
Yeah.
If they don't manage to get that, I would imagine there is a tail off and they start leaking a few goals, because that effort and that defensive effort to get them into this position, that, like they were celebrating blocks and challenges and saves like it was the end of the game, and they'd taken all 3 points in a close 1-0 win. Like they were celebrating them like they were goals. And that is, again, as an opposition fan, you just kind of have to take your hat off and go, yeah, like it was really impressive. It's
funny you mentioned about the blocks and stuff, because I'm looking now, four shots they blocked to our none. And do you know what? I see that quite a lot. Like, the Coventry game was another one. It just felt like, I mean, I've not gone back and analysed it. I just feel like we don't make many blocks. The opposition tend to block a lot of our shots. Now, I don't know whether that's because it is just unlucky. Do the opposition want it more? As you just mentioned there, is it down to a quality thing? The centre-back quality that they're not used to being a centre-back. There's probably a multitude of different things. I mean, I know, some of the shots that they've had 7 shots. I think one would have been the one that hit the bar in the first half from the lad who scored, Edwards, was it?
Yeah.
Obviously, one would be the Edwards goal. That's I suppose the three that's not gone in. I can't remember what that's one of them. They've had another 2 shots.
Sorry, James. Are we talking on target here?
No, they've had 7 shots. They've had
4.
So
there was the one that creeped past the post, which should have been 5. There's the other one, and I think there'll probably be another one in there which has gone high, wide, and handsome sort of thing.
Yeah, but and obviously the ones that they've scored, I know they've hit one from the edge of the box, which has flown in, but the other ones are kind of, all nearly inside the 6-yard box, aren't they? Yeah. So I suppose it's going to be difficult to get a block in there, but they shouldn't be there in the first place. I mean, you should have stopped them from getting there. I thought just defensively we were just, in that second half, all over the shop. Is it the third goal that's just like Sunday League defending? Absolute It's like, you could put that music onto it. Do you know what I mean? Like the swing and a miss and a deflection and a fucking, like, literally whatever could have gone wrong went wrong. But should we really be surprised that the defending is how it is when, we're going in with kind of 5th and 6th choice centre backs, and we didn't recruit one in January. I know we keep banging on about not signing a centre back. We can't do anything about it until the summer. But but I feel like we've just got to accept that this is what it's going to be like. Like, you know what I mean? Because we've started with Michael Ehekwa and Max Lowe, and Max Lowe was never ever going to be a centre back ever. It wasn't even going to be in the middle of on the left hand side of a 3, let alone playing as a centre back partner, partnering Michael Ehekwa. That, if you'd have said to anyone at the start of the season, right, after January, we're going to be lining up with Michael Ehekwa and Max Lowe in the two, you're thinking, what the fuck's happened? Do you know what I mean? Like, what has happened for that to, you're thinking, have we? Has there been an illness like in the squad? Have they just been lucky and not got ill? You'd be hard pressed to try and find a scenario where that would happen, but that's where we find ourselves.
No, I agree, James. If you take yourself back to happier times at the CBS Arena earlier in the year when Jan Valery lined up at centre half, do you remember the panic? The panic of like, oh my God, what are we doing playing him here? Is he going to be all right? Is he going to be this? Now, if, say for argument's sake, next Friday, if Jan Valery isn't starting at centre half, I'm going to be thinking, what the fuck's gone off? Like, what has gone wrong here? Like, you can't be playing Otabayo. What are we playing at? It's, again, going back to your original question of kind of like, should we be surprised? Again, benefit of hindsight and perspective, no. But in the moment of the matches that we are watching at the minute, it is a horror show. Absolute horror show at the back. You have your central centre-back who traditionally sets the line is always 5 yards deeper than everybody else. So I can't genuinely work out whether that is tactics or whether that is the centre-half in question, Michael Ehekwa, knowing that he hasn't got the pace or the awareness to be able to keep up with those players, so he's sitting deeper than them. Your wing-backs are passing people on to no one, as there's kind of like a central 3 and they're not actually centre half, so they're not used to kind of like going out and engaging those players. And again, it's not a criticism of individual specifics at this point, because I know we're going to come on to talk about that in a second. But those individual mistakes breed kind of like a collective of small and finer details that we then see in every single one of these games that we've had recently. When you look at those parachute payment teams again, in particular, that doesn't happen. It's an individual isolated error that happens once, but does not happen again. When they go up to the Premier League, they're happening week in, week out. Just anybody who knows a Sheffield United fan, ask them about their defending last year. Because those teams at the top of the division, because they just simply don't make those mistakes with the regularity like ourselves. If you look at our spine from Friday night, Michael Ehekwa, Barry Bannon, and Michael Smith. That is our League One promotion. Let me rephrase that. That is the side that finished 3rd in League One. Yeah. That is the spine of who we are lining up against 2nd or 3rd in the league. And we're asking them to go up against these type of teams. And again, it's not a criticism of those players, but they are going to make more individual errors as opposed to your opposition. And that is only amplified when your forwards aren't converting as many chances as we create.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, that, in that second half, it was quite laughable at times, and I think they kind of turned it on a little bit in the second half. I think the problem was, well, obviously we surprised them. So in the second half, I'm surprised they didn't get let the goalkeeper go down and have a bit of a team talk. But it looked like Scott Parker was listening to, I don't know, Drake's new album or something, and he was sat in the dugout or whatever he was doing. But yeah, he clearly got in at half time and was like, right, this is what they're doing. This is what we need to do to counteract it, because it was a totally different second half. But yeah, so I'll read a few comments out. Jay says we always play well. No, we always play so well, then we get battered. And then Liam says, we never score at the right time. So many games we've been well on top and gone behind instead of scoring and putting opponents under pressure. Yeah, it always feels like the opposition do exactly that. They score at the right time.
Just before you
always.
move on from that one, James, Liam, Tom did a fantastic discussion about this on the watch along surrounding momentum in football and when teams tend to score. And it's actually not he was saying that statistically, it's not actually the team with momentum that often scores. It's obviously a team who's out of momentum who usually catches people on the break, which leads to the success of why not only ourselves, but lots of other teams have said this season, oh no, we're better away from home because we're able to sit back and break on people. So I thought that was a really interesting point, that.
Yeah, definitely. Kevin said we had our 6th and 7th choice centre defenders on in the second half. I rate Valerie and Lowe as 4th and 5th with the rest injured. Yeah, but it's just not good enough. Like that's what we're trying to get at. Like, you know, you could even argue with our first choice centre backs, they're perhaps, you know, we still wanted another one. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's where we're at. Chef Cam said half-time sub choice baffled me. Kevin's also gone on with Hatsuse, should have replaced Johnson. I mean, hindsight is a wonderful thing, and we'll come on to him in a bit because I thought he was one of the, you know, certainly one of the positives from that second half. We'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We'll see what happens in the next couple of games in regards to that one. Yeah, Duran said Rio looks decent. Yeah, a bit of love for him there. Russell, best team to come to Burnley, created more chances than every other team to come to the turf combined. Russell, clearly a Burnley fan. Thanks for joining. I don't know if there'd been many joining if we'd have hammered them, but.
I think they'd have been joining, going, "What the fuck has gone off? We barely concede. Like, what has happened here? If it had been a reverse scoreline."
Yeah, we might have been getting loads of fans from teams that Burnley are coming up against next, thinking, "How did you do it? How did you score a goal against them?" Keep your comments coming in, of course. I will try and read them out as much as we possibly can. But individual mistakes, Matt, it's becoming a running theme. To be honest, it's every week, and most, if not nearly all, of the goals that we concede. I know it's easy to say that they're going to be from some sort of mistake, but. You know, other than their 4th goal, which, you know, I mean, to be fair, there's a little bit of a mistake in there in terms of, you know, not following him in the run that, you know, was made out on the outside. Yeah. But, you know, it's like every mistake that we make, or it's someone switching off and then it gets punished every single time. I don't know if we're just really unlucky or the opposition are just really good at taking advantage of these mistakes that we're making. I don't know which one it is.
You see, this has always been my argument of when you speak to another Sheffield Wednesday fan, they talk about, I can't wait to go up to the Premier League, and I go, well, if you don't like conceding, if you don't like individual mistakes and conceding against, you know, like this lot, you wait until you go up there. I think the worrying thing for me is these individual mistakes are now catching and it's going across the team. So if it's not Marvin Johnson passing people on to no one Friday night, West Brom, it's Michael Ahekwa sitting too deep. You take it back to, you know, last week, it's James Beadle dropping crosses right at strikers' feet, or Svante Ingelsson not getting out to block players' crosses. If you just look at the first goal from Friday night in isolation, we drop into a back 5 around the edge of the box when Burnley are trying to work the ball wide to Edwards. Edwards plays the pass inside, then looks to stop. So like he almost like stop, stand still. Johnson turns the other way. The minute his back's turned, he's gone.
Yeah.
Johnson then tries to pass him on. I'm thinking he's trying to pass him on to presumably Josh Windass, who's the closest Sheffield Wednesday player to him. But obviously nobody tracks him. When then Charles gets beat in the tackle, Lowe, Ihekwa and Valerie are all dead level with the penalty spot. And it allows Edwards literally 3 yards of space to compose himself. And then ultimately it's a good finish. But those fine margins and those individual decisions being made in split seconds are not that of a top 6 challenging side at this point in time. It is that of a mid-table team.
Well, up the where are we now? We're 12, aren't we?
I don't know. Honest answer is I don't know.
So I know at one point I was saying up the bottom half owls. I know it just dropped into it. No, we are actually 12, so we are still top half owls for the time being.
Do you know what, James? I think it was Chef Cam earlier who I pulled his comment up of saying there's that top 8 teams. To me personally, it feels like we're that best of the rest. Like if you put us in a one-off game against any one of those other teams that are in there, we are best of the rest. Like I would back us against anybody from, I don't know, 9th downwards, maybe aside from Middlesbrough, but they're in carnage at the minute. Everybody else who's above us, we just don't have the quality. And that is really frustrating.
Do you know what's happened? We're a McDonald's, we're a Michelin star chef. Because do you know what? It can do what it can, but it's still a McDonald's, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it still got McDonald's on front of the shop. So that's what we like. And clip that up if you want. Well, it's entirely up to you. Let's talk about.
Go on, James. Yeah, go.
Let's talk about Ryu Hatsuse. His little cameo that he had. I got my little Japan flag out, which I was more than happy about on Friday. You know, that has to be a positive, certainly from the second half, because I feel like another positive was the performance in the first half, obviously, and how we came so close to actually scoring a goal at Turf Moor. But, you know, from the little what we saw of him, he came on at, 77 minutes, something like that, 79 minutes. You know, I thought he was great. I thought he put a great cross in, which we obviously we didn't capitalise on.
No, don't be silly.
But other than that, I think it was just how much he wanted the ball. He was asking for it. I mean, to be fair, he needs to learn this quickly because he was asking... was it Michael Hekwa to ping a 60-yard diag to try and get to him? Like, I mean, come on, mate, that ain't happening. That's not happening at all. But he was shouting it. There was one point the ball went to the right hand side. He was livid that he had not come to him. So I'm all for that. You know. Having someone that wants the ball, you know, he wants to do something with it. You know, he did a nice little back heel at one point. You know, when the ball came to him, I think that was like one of his first touches that he had. So yeah, I mean, I know we had to shift we did. I don't know if we had to shift it because he came on, or we just decided to play a back three at that point. And obviously, it meant that he was a lot further forward. But yeah, I mean, for me, I was really impressed with him. Like from the little we saw of him.
Yeah, I would agree. 10, 15 minutes, didn't do anything wrong. And the limited opportunities where he did have an opportunity to make an impact going forward, did well. Technically, looks a very good footballer. I think the delivery that you're talking about, it goes so high. Like it's an unusual ball to deliver, because normally from a wing back position, what you see is that kind of like flat, just above head height delivery with a lot of pace. And actually the ball was like really whipped, but it was whipped up like, I don't know, 20, 30 foot in the air and perfectly positioned to land at a striker who was steaming in at the back post to get a head on it. But obviously everyone was like, I'm not used to this, so we'll just see that one go by. Yeah. There was a couple of things surrounding kind of like the substitution at half time, because I know after the game, obviously benefit of hindsight's a wonderful thing. A lot of people said, well, why didn't you just stick him on at half time rather than Otegbayo? Whilst I understand the thinking behind that, and I don't actually think that Friday night did Gabe Otegbayo any favours at all. No. Like, no favours at all whatsoever. But again, remember, we said this last week, he's a kid. And the manager will know best kind of when to throw people on. I'm convinced we will see a lot of Ryo Hatsuse between now and the end of the season. And we'll see a lot more about what he's like, especially with Max Lowe having to play centre-back. I think also when you look at it bigger picture going into next season, whether Danny is here or not, and that's a whole nother talking point, you can comfortably play Max Lowe at left centre-back. As long as he's got two strong and solid pairings alongside him, you could comfortably move him from left back or left wing back, where we'd initially signed him for, to replace Marvin Johnson, put Max Lowe in there, and nobody would bat an eyelid. If we lined up on the first day of the season next year with Max Lowe at centre-back and have Rio on the wide left, because then you've got a lot of pace going down that left side. Okay, aerially, you might struggle. But if you sign somebody to complement Deschamps Bernard in there on the other side of it as a centre-half as well, looking very positive, like when all players are fit and available. I would like to see Ryo Hatsuse start a game. I'm not entirely sure Sunderland is the one I'd want him to come in for. But I would like to see him start a game sooner rather than later to see what he can do from the start.
It's funny you've said that, because I've just put a poll in on YouTube. So people, if you're listening or watching us on there, do get involved. It is exactly that. Does he start on Sunday against Sunderland? Obviously making that would be his full league debut in front of the Hills Were Faithful, of course, under the lights. It'll be a great showing, especially if you have that shit light show that we have at the start of the game anyway. Really showing what it's like a night out in Sheffield, you know. Yeah.
Also makes the pitch look fucking terrible as well.
Yeah, you just have to watch us on Sky, and it will be on Sky, so you can see all the ball patches. Giving me a run for my money on that one.
I was just about to say, pitch, Bannon, boy, take your pick.
Yes. Are we getting a little bit too ahead of ourselves? 'Cause, I mean, I thought Jus van Aken was the second coming of Paolo Maldini when he first came in, and look what happened to him. You know what I mean? I thought Momo Diaby was, Yaya Touré's long lost cousin. That didn't work out either. I don't want this one to be the same, because we've seen probably the same amount of football from Hatsusi as we have, the others. When we made that kind of claim. But for me personally, I'm that kind of annoyed with Johnson's performances and the kind of inconsistency of them, or just kind of consistently underperforming, that I feel like we've got nothing to lose, really. What's the point in bringing someone in if he's never going to play? And especially when he shows such promise. If you're not going to play him, then, like I said, what's the point?
No, I agree. I think it's also the other side of that coin, James, is it's 12 games between now and the end of the season. You can properly make your mind up on that type of a player in those 12 games. Much the same should be said for Ibrahim Sissoko as well, who has come in for an awful lot of flack after his first 3 cameo appearances in a Sheffield Wednesday shirt when he's returning from an injury. I thought, again, I'm referencing the watch-along that you did with Tom on Friday, he made a really good point that this was a player who was offered to other clubs who were higher up the division than Sheffield Wednesday at the time when he was offered, and they didn't take him because of his injury issue. We were in a position where he fell to us because of his injury, and we have to gamble on a player like that, because if you don't, you miss out on a player like that. But if you listen to either those who are in stands at kind of like the games where he's come into, and if you listen to us last week where we were slating kind of decision making that he's making in those areas, there was a lot of people who seem to have made their mind up on him after Friday, being well, he's shit. And I'm like, well,
but the other thing is, the other point that Tom made as well, which is another one to remember, we've got an option to buy him at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So this isn't just a Jan Poveda 6-month loan.
No.
This is someone where, yes, we'd like him to be a little bit better now, because we're going to get into that, age-old problem of it's going to be the end of the season, and we're going to think, do we get him, do we not? And then he'll go to someone else, and then he'll end up,
tearing it up.
And then we're thinking, fucking hell, he's gone for 15 million, that kid. We should have had him. We're going to get into that sort of situation, but it is one for the future. The unfortunate thing is, we might not have Danny Rill for said future as well moving forward. Just on that poll, 90% of people say they would want Rio Hatsus playing on Friday against Sunderland, and I perfectly see that one. Yeah, I can see that whole.
You know what you're going to get from Marvin Johnson, don't you? You know what you're going to get from him if you are starting games. You are going to get a lot of effort, because no one can discount his effort. He does put a lot of effort over the course of 90 minutes. He does put a lot of effort into games. He is going to be defensively in those, not in key moments, but for large spells of the game, more than competent enough to keep up with kind of like a winger on that side. But in those key spells at this point in time, it appears that it's really sad, because I have a lot of time for Marvin Johnson. I think his song is one of the best songs that we have at the minute, which is very rarely sung now, which gives you an idea of how many individual mistakes he's made over the course of this season.
Yeah, definitely. One from George. He says, so far Sissoko is no better than Masaba, but at one point we thought Gassama was worse than Masaba too. Yeah, great point, that. Definitely. Things can change, and I just think as a fan base, I've said this numerous times, I think the size of our fan base is a detriment to us. Whilst also it's great that we take good followings away from home and everything else, and we can call us massive and all that sort of stuff. I think the other thing is that with the social media, it's quite easy to feel like it's the majority of people that are saying something just because you see so many comments about a certain thing. But that just might be a minority of the fan base, but on social media, it just looks like it's a lot. You see them getting hammered all the time, and very rarely people come out and and praise people. It's always the flip side of it.
God forbid.
Yeah, and we love hammering players, and I know we do it on the pod to a certain extent. Of course we do. We just say it as we see it. That's what we do. We're not here to kind of be the Happy Clapper podcast or anything like that. But yeah, we do have a habit of writing people off very, very quickly. We aren't even giving him a proper chance, and he has just been injured. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's cut him a little bit of slack. I thought he's looked bright. He's not even started a game yet either. So let's see what he's like when he starts from the off. Do you know what I mean?
When the ball's at his feet, James, he looks brilliant. Like when the ball is at his feet and he's running at a defender, the opportunities that he's had, very limited opportunities, he should have had 2 penalties. Like that, you know, you take the Coventry game, you take the Swansea game in the space of a couple of days where he's got the ball down and he's been up approaching the opposition box. He's made the defender look full and make a mistake. Ultimately, the ref's not made the decisions.
Yeah, definitely. Right, Shea Charles then, he's picked up his 9th yellow card of the season. There's only 4 players in the league that have picked up more than him, and they've got 10. Now, the ban thing resets just before the Steel City derby. Mm-hmm. So we've got 3 games left: Sunderland, Plymouth, and then Norwich as well. Matt, what are the odds on him getting a yellow in either the Plymouth or the Norwich game and kind of missing the derby? And also, would you prefer him just to get a stupid yellow card against Sunderland? You know, I mean, you can't bet on the cards market just as of well, you couldn't as of yesterday. You might, I don't know if you can now or not, but the odds must be kind of odds on, or even, at least evens. But he did go 5 games without a card up until this point, and he's done that again at some point this season. So he can do it. But what, do you feel like he's going to miss the derby?
I hope he doesn't, because I think, again, still, I think he's our player of the season. I think he's had a tougher second half of the season so far, but I think that's down to the players who are behind him, not the players who, not his level of kind of like ability. I don't think his performances have changed much. I just think defensively we've got worse, if that's possible. On the amount of yellows, there was a couple, like you were saying, he's 4th most booked player in the league.
5th. He's 4 ahead of him, yeah.
Fifth most booked player in the league. I personally don't feel that's a problem, because he's the one combative midfielder in there who's always having to drop back into a back 5. So yeah, he is going to be the one who picks up the most yellow cards in this squad, because he is the one who stops breakaways, stops challenges, all the rest of it. If it's me, I know people don't like gamesmanship in football, but with the level of importance on that Steel City derby for our neighbours, not necessarily for ourselves, but for our neighbours, it's an incredibly important game for the city of Sheffield, but they 100% have more riding on it in terms of what they've got potentially and what a win could mean for them in the season. If he is still on the pitch in the 87th minute, if I'm him, tapping the other centre mid, going, next time you get the ball, I'm just going to kick you. Just go down and make a meal of it. And getting a booking and thinking, right, I've got 2 games off.
All you need to do is just pass. All you need to do is just get, when he next gets the ball, lose it, and then just fucking drag the other guy down,
or just kick the ball away. Like something stupid, something. Ball goes out for a throw in. He's closest to there. He just boots it away.
He needs to do it really dramatically as well. Yeah. Because I think all the Wednesday fans, because it'll be at Hillsborough as well, will be like, cheering the yellow card. Like it'd be like the whole. Was it Deshaun Bernard? Who was he playing against when he got the red card? Was it? I want to say Stoke or when he got the red card, but it was about 15 minutes after he actually made the tackle.
Bristol City.
Bristol City? Yeah. And it was a team in red. But yeah, it happened so long after, and it was like he got a standing ovation for that red card. It was surreal. Was it Dom Iorfa at, I want to say, Portsmouth, when he got clapped off in that game?
A horror tackle.
He got clapped off there as well. I think it's just really weird, like how they've potentially like lost you the game, but yet you clap them off. It's weird. Gustavo Hamer, Callum Doyle, Benjamin Whiteman, and Ali McCann. Preston have had 2 players with 10 bookings so far this season. So they're the others with 10 yellows. I'm the same. I wouldn't mind it at all if he got booked against Sunderland. I think had we have been say we'd have won the last 2 games or won 2 games that we hadn't won previously, and we found ourselves kind of in the top 6. I think it's as much as the Steel City derby is a massive game.
It doesn't matter at that point. Like, it's just I'm with
you. Do you know what I mean? Like these slightly less more importance on it. Like you need him for the other two games because it's not a given that he's going to get a yellow card. Like it's just whereas now the fact that we are 6 points adrift and it's as much as the people are going to be saying to us now, I never thought we were going to get top 6 anyway. Until it's kind of, and I know it's not mathematically over now, but realistically speaking, it's going to be a really tall ask. Yeah. Now I just think, let's just beat them. If we can beat them at Hillsborough, great. Finish 10th
by 2 points.
but we're sat here thinking I'd rather do that than lose to them and then miss out by 2 points or 3 points, 6 points, whatever. Do you know what I mean? We need to give them a bit of a hiding. Let's talk about some of the goals. We've already talked about the Edwards one. Yeah. The Brownhill goal, he comes on for literally about 30 seconds and I think it's his first touch or second touch at the ball and he scores a goal. If you watch it back, it's really, really clever. They just kind of overload down our left-hand side. I think it's Windass's man who eventually gets the cross in. Kind of that forces Otugbeo into trying to close him down and they all kind of shift across. And Brownhill just moves into that space that's been left by Otugbeo. And it's just an easy finish from 6 yards out, showing Armstrong exactly what you need to do when you're in that situation. Slightly different because obviously he's running onto it instead. I mean, Hekwa just kind of ends up marking absolutely no one because obviously, Otubeo's ran off his man to try and close the other lad down. He doesn't get to him quick enough, and it's a mixture of kind of poor defending, but also really good movement from Burnley and really capitalising on the fact that you're forcing Windass to do some defensive duties, and he just either doesn't want to do them or just not.
He's not that way inclined, is he? It's just not part of his. Like, don't get me wrong, he's not an awful, horrendous defender for an attacker, but it's not his skill set, is it?
No, exactly, and I mean, at that point, the second goal goes in, and it's almost game over, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. My issue with this one was, I think it's a well-worked move out wide. My issue with this one is, again, and I felt like I've dug him out a lot, and Michael Hekwa has got to do something. Like, he's got to do something with it, like in my eyes personally, because, again, he's deep when the ball is played wide. When the ball comes into the box, he's either got to go and try and engage the player or he's got to go and try and get back on the line to clear the ball. He's got to make a decision. Ultimately, he ends up doing neither. Marks no one. Yeah, good finish, really well-worked goal, and game over, sadly.
There'll be at least one person listening to the podcast loving them comments that you've just made there about Michael Hekwa.
And again, I'm really not meaning to be horrible on him because he is our fifth choice centre-back. Again, when all are fit, he doesn't make the squad. Like, he was not making the squad. And that is not a slight on him. Like, he is, again, for large spells of games, he's really commanding in the air. He undoubtedly, against certain teams, is the right defensive selection. In these games against these type of teams, you are going to get exposed when you have Michael Hekwa playing centre half. Like, he's just and central, especially. Like, you can, if you're playing in a back three with maybe Bernard, Famewo, and Michael Hekwa on the right or on the left, okay, he maybe gets away with it because he's got two other centre halves who are of an equal or like a better standard than him. When it is on him to set the tone of it, it's just not quite up to the standard. And that's, again, not a slight on him. It's just the level is just too quick for him.
I mean, talking about standards and stuff, the third goal, that is the Sunday League's defending one. Hekwa swing and a miss, just kind of, it just gets a little bit on it, doesn't really fully connect. Charles has a go at it, smashes it at Ike Ugbo. It just looks as if he's like, we talk about, the 4G signal. He had GPRS, didn't he? Do you know what I mean? He was on edge at that point. Like, if it was a comic strip, if it was a Looney Tunes, he would have had the kind of the birds going around his head when it hit him. And then, the kid who scores, Roberts, he just gets in between Otugbeo and Lowe, and it's just a really good cross. And at this point, he's thinking, we've got 20 odd minutes left, and you're thinking, 3-0 now. Like, we're not giving up or anything, but we're just getting, this could be a bit of a hammering here. And I mean, the route is finished off in the 95th minute in it with the Manuel Hedalazio? I've probably butchered his name. Manuel, we'll just call him. I mean, this is the one where you just have to take your hat off and go, it's a really good strike with his weaker foot as well. By the way, like which you can kind of see that he kind of like almost toe pokes it.
It's like a weird foot action, isn't it? It's not like a pure and crisp connection. It's like almost like one of those where cold day park football, you hit it and you go, oh fuck, that hurt.
Yeah, he's toe poked it with his shit flickers on at school. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, a keeper's got no chance. But it's good movement because you see it's the left back who just bombs on.
Yeah. And
then he goes right. Valerie runs with him, thinking he's going to lay it off to him, and then he just cuts on. I suppose as well. Let's give Valerie a little bit of, let's give him a little bit of credit. Obviously, we don't know, but if he's done his own work and he says that he's a left footer and he's cutting on his right, you've got to say, if you score from there with your weaker foot, and if it's like Barry Bannon, innit? Everyone knows he hasn't got a right foot. Just show him inside, and he'll just lay a pass off. He's not going to have a shot with his right. So if he's done that, fair enough. I don't know if he has or not. I've no idea.
Ultimately, he's tracked the runner, and he's the furthest man wide. So it's your job to do that. He's tracked the overlapping runner, and also when the player does cut inside, there's nobody who really charges out to him. So again, it's not, for me, it's not on Jan Valery. It's on when the player turns inside. You've got to have players going to try and engage it. And we all just kind of stand. There's sort of like a token gesture of it. But you just cannot say that is anything but an absolute wonderful strike, because it is an arrow into the top corner. It doesn't swerve. It doesn't move. It is literally dead straight from the minute it leaves his foot, straight in the top corner. Keeper's got absolutely no chance to save it.
You mean we can't blame Beadle for this one?
No, can't blame Beadle for this one. No, sadly not. I'm sure there'll be people who are trying, but it's just a wonderful strike. Like, there's nothing more to it.
Gary says fourth goal, he had the freedom of turf ball on the edge of our box. Again, it comes back to that kind of the blocks that we make, and it was zero. I suppose that was a shot where if we're having that shot, we're getting closed down. Do you know what I mean? Two men are coming flying at us and sliding in and getting something on it, and a weak appeal for a handball. Handball. I can see it now all playing out. But yeah. Right, we're going to go for a bit of a slightly new feature. I don't know how long it's going to last for. Don't get too excited, but we're just going to give us our winners and losers from Friday's game. It can be anything from a Wednesday perspective, of course, but it can be anything. It doesn't have to be a player. It can be absolutely anything that you want. My winner has to be Hatsusi for me. The only player that's come away from that game with any sort of positive, really. As I mentioned, I thought he looked very promising when he came on. Clearly, people want him to start against Sunderland on Friday, which is always good. We haven't hammered him straight, just yet. Do you know what I mean? There's still time. Let's see what he does on Friday if he plays. But I thought it was great for him to make his debut. The fact that he's the first Japanese player to have played any sort of minute. Well, first Japanese player to have signed for Wednesday. Now he's played as well, so he's got that kind of record under his belt. So yeah, I think it's great, and he's my winner.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the other one that I've put into there is Stuart Armstrong. If you remove the miss, I thought he was fantastic again on the night. Really links play very, very well. For me, he looks like the type of player who we all thought Svante Ingolson was going to be at the start of the season in terms of those, advanced runs beyond a striker, linking the play up around the edge of the area. I thought he's done very, very well in the games that we've seen him play, and he's been very important over the past couple of weeks. I thought he was good on Friday night, but yeah, it's a glaring miss. Yeah,
and for the losers then, I've just gone with the whole defence. I just think, conceded 4 goals or more for the 3rd time this season, conceded more than 3 for the 7th time. Far too many. I mean, I think incidentally in those games we've scored 6. 3 of them came in the 3-3 draw with Borough, and you can't be needing 3 or more goals just to get something out of the game. Do you know what I mean? Not even you score 3, you should win the game. I don't care what anyone says. But yeah, I just think they were all over the place. I think you've gone for the same, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, the defence is the glaring issue. For my money, it's been the glaring issue all season because your strikers can miss chances. Like that would happen. Look at the level of the players that we've got playing up there. No disrespect to any of them, but they are going to miss chances. They are going to miss more than they score, just because that is the nature of it. You know, our top scorer is Josh Windass, who, you know, as a purple patch and a bit of a streaky striker in terms of his scoring. Michael Smith has far surpassed everybody's expectation. When you look at that defensive line from the past number of games, and you don't just have to look at the defense, the defensive line, you can go through the whole team, in particular that second half. They were pulled from pillar to post as a defensive unit in that second half on Friday. But again, I think if you're highlighting that specific defensive area, I think very tough evening for Michael Ehekwa. I thought Gabe Ottogbayo had his first learning experience of Barry Bannon's hairdryer treatment when the third went in. Like he got a full barrage of abuse for not tracking his runners. It feels harsh to keep digging them out week on week on week on week, but it is the glaring issue at this point in time. Like there was stats coming out, wasn't there? On I think it was Friday or Saturday morning, depending on which one that you read. Was like against the top six, the score is like on aggregate something like 17-0 or something like that. It's something stupid. And that is, there's no way of dressing that up. Like that's just simply not good enough. Like there's no way of dressing that up.
And we haven't played all of them yet.
Yeah, I think that was at the point where West Brom were out of it. I think Bristol City were in there, which is why the score was what it was, I think. Or there was some, it was either top four or top six. It would make sense if it was top four. Yeah,
I think it is top four. 2-0 and 3-0 against Leeds, 1-0 against United, 2-0 and 4-0 against Burnley, and 4-0 against Sunderland. Yeah. So yeah, no goals scored whatsoever. Obviously West Brom 3-2 and 2-1, but we've still got Sheffield United and Sunderland to play. Obviously Sunderland on Friday, Sheffield United in a few weeks' time. I hope that 0 is no longer a 0 after the next two that we play. But yeah, that's a frightening stat, isn't it? I mean, that kind of comes back to what we were saying about it being like a mini Premier League. Because you look at those four clubs, Leeds, Sheffield United, Burnley and Sunderland, and as much as it pains me to say it, you know, those four don't look, you know, they have been in the Premier League fairly recently. Do you know what I mean? In comparison to us. Do you know what I mean? They don't look out of place now in the Premier League. And like, you add kind of West Brom to that as well. Yeah, Blackburn, no. You know what I mean? Obviously, I know they were way back when. Coventry, no.
They were a playoff side, though, recently. The same as Sunderland.
Yeah, you have to kind of go down to the next one that you kind of seen in the Premier League recently is Norwich. They're in 10th. Borough, I mean, I can't believe Borough have, you know, I suppose they're not doing us any justice in terms of the back in the whole. I mean, back in the whole spend money in January because they spent a boatload and we're above them. We are, you know. Chancellor will be definitely using that one for his little PowerPoint presentation. Look what happens when you spend money, you do shit.
The other one there, James, is so your top three, your Leeds, your Burnley, your Sheffield United, whatever order you want to put them in. You then look at Sunderland. Sunderland are the only one who have done that in the, I suppose, model, quote unquote, way of if you were looking to do it at Sheffield Wednesday, you'd do it that way. And that's, you know, they were in League One. They went up the season before us. They'd been down there for 6 years. But if you look at their model of recruitment, what they do is they sign masses of young players, like mountains of them, all for, you know, there's a handful of them for expensive fees, but the majority of them are relatively nominal. And then what happens is when one of, say, 20, 30 is good, they're so good that they end up selling them for 20. And then they just reinvest and rinse and repeat. Most of them are good enough for the Championship, if not playing at the top end of the division. And it just allows you to build that quality. It's just a really smart recruitment cycle. Like it's just the way that you do it. The only one who you look at in their team really at the moment, who is like, what on earth is he doing there, is that Enzo Laffi. You look at him and you just think, what on earth are you doing there? And I think that's to do with, I'm right in thinking, James, aren't I? He's got a option to buy if Sunderland go up.
I think it's an obligation to buy, I think,
if they go up, and it's 22 million or something like that.
Yeah, they have to sign him,
Yeah, which is, again, wonderful, but they are the only one out of that top three who aren't using parachute payment money to fund this attack at the league. And you see what happens when a side doesn't do that, they're still around the top 6 in West Brom. West Brom are now out of the parachute payment money, but they are still spending money.
Yeah, and let's not. So again, when you use that as a model there, again, transfer market. I'm just using them as a reference. Their squad value is 125 million. Ours is 37. Now, of that 37, 5 of that is James Beadle, 10 of that is Shea Charles. Yeah. So it's 22. I don't know how many they've got on loan. I've no idea. So I can't exactly take the loan players out of theirs. But you know what I mean? It's still a lot more. And as you've just mentioned, they were the same as us. They was in League One for a lot longer than what we were as well. They're also a big club. You could argue, a bigger club than what Sheffield Wednesday is in stature, but still very, very similar. So it can be done. It's just we just don't have the correct model for doing that. Before we talk about said Sunderland game, I just want to say as well. Obviously, there's been 1867 news have come out with that they've got some shock news to share in regards to the potential takeover that was happening, which now apparently it isn't happening. They put this out kind of after full time on Friday. They also said they've got lots more to share, and it's too long for to share in a Twitter post, which I'm quite thankful though, because the one they put out last time was a very, very long read. I nearly put that what's that meme where it says something like, I'm sorry for your loss. Sorry for your loss, or okay, bro, or whatever it is.
I'm not reading all of that. It's either cool or no, it's all right.
Or whatever it was. It was a long post. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so first of all, I just want to say, because I put a tweet out saying that we are going to be speaking to them, and a lot of people have got the wrong end of the stick because I think they're getting them mixed up with the 1867 group, which I can see why people get it all mixed up, because obviously they've been kind of the flavour of the month, or perhaps not the flavour of the month for a couple of months now, and everything. But I can tell you now that those two accounts are not related at all. They're not the same. They're not an offshoot of. The only relationship is that they're both Sheffield Wednesday fans. That's where the of similarities end. But yeah, I mean that's it. I just wanted to clear that up. But yeah, Matt, you're going to be speaking to them at some point this week, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm speaking to them on Tuesday because, again, James, I held my hands up with messaging today. I was like, shit, I've got my dates wrong. Just coincidentally, James, that message went off at 7:59 with 1867 News saying, all right, I'll close my laptop. So I did say, oh fuck, I've got the dates wrong here. So yeah, but I'm speaking to them on Tuesday. It will be very much sort of like a platform just to kind of get the information out there, and people can make their own minds up based off what's said. But I do think that point that you've just made there, and that will be, for anybody who does listen to that again, will be reiterated again. These are, just because they share 1867 in the moniker, in the name and in the title,
which is that's just the year that club were founded. Like, I mean, that's
the link. Yeah. There we go.
Wonder where they pluck them 4 numbers from randomly.
Yeah. I do get why people have done so, but if you are, if you hear it or anything like that, just all you need to do is just go into the Twitter header, and it says the joining dates and the dates of when the accounts were created. You can see that it's 2012. You can see that it's June 2012. So actually, yeah, if you want to, you can go back and check all of the history of it. Like, it's fine. But yeah, again, yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to that chat, and hopefully that'll be able to shed some light on situations, obviously, that have arisen at Hillsborough over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, and like you said, people can make their own mind up after that. Entirely up to them. It will be going out free to everyone to listen to as well. So yeah, I have no idea what's going to be said. I haven't got a clue. Let's just see what happens and take it from there. Really. Let's talk about Sunderland then. They sit 4th in the league, 12 points clear of 6th. It does look like they're going to be, one of the top 4. I don't feel like they're going to be really battling it out for the top 3. They're 8 points adrift now. So if they've got a chance to top 2, then we've still got a chance of top 6 and we haven't. So and we're only 6 points adrift. So yeah, I think they're going to, they are going to be comfortably in the playoffs. Like I said, they're well clear at the moment. Reggie Labrie is their gaffer. In terms of form, draw, win, and then they've just gone on two straight defeats, losing to Hull last time out. I mean, to be fair, they'd not lost in 2025 until the Leeds game, and obviously now they've lost against Leeds, they've lost against Hull. Hopefully we're going to make it 3 Yorkshire clubs that they're going to lose to on the trot. If you can loosely call Hull Yorkshire, it does it does get on my nerves a little bit that they're clinging on a bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, calling it. It's always when it's on Sky or whatever, and they call it the Yorkshire Derby. Bollocks! Yeah. It's not a Yorkshire Derby. Not in the slightest. But anyway, we could make it 3 Yorkshire clubs to have beaten them. How do you think we're going to approach this game on Friday? Because I've got some PTSD about Sunderland at Hillsborough.
Yeah, you've got absolutely fair.
The last 2 times they've played him, like, at Hillsborough.
Yeah, I mean, I thought last season they were the most impressive side to come to Hillsborough, like, unbelievable. And for my money, they're the most impressive side that we've played this season. I'd include Leeds in that as well. I thought they were sparkling on the second game of the season, and I thought they were brilliant at Hillsborough last year. Obviously, the game up at the Stadium of Light. It was also really this is the kind of like the most friendly derby for Sheffield Wednesday fans as well, in terms of like it's one of those games where kind of both sets of fans go, you're great, no, you're great, no, you're great, no, you're great. Oh, I've got so much respect for you. So I am looking forward to the game on Friday night for a number of reasons, because I genuinely don't think we have another way of playing than what we've seen over the course of this season. We've got system shapes, we've got system changes, we've got all of this, but we don't have another way of playing in terms of we are going to try and create as many chances as possible, and we are also going to be leaky defensively. What it is set up for is a really high-scoring game of football, one way or another, because I know Sunderland, struggled at the weekend to unlock, obviously, Hull. It's set up for 2 teams who just go out and just go, do you know what? Let's just go at it for like 90 minutes on Friday, because I genuinely feel that's what the game will be like. I also think with Sunderland having that approach at Hillsborough, I actually think that's more positive than the teams who we've seen come to Hillsborough and sit in over recent weeks, like Coventry. Sitting in, really. I thought there were points in the game against Coventry where, like a football match broke out, and I was like, wow, like this is really good. Whereas when we watched Luton at Hillsborough, I was like, oh, this is terrible, boys. Like, this is, I know you're down the bottom of the league, but you are just sitting in and just saying break us down. I don't think Sunderland have that in their locker. I don't think that's how they'll want to play. And if I was their manager, I would be saying, no, you need to go out and make a statement here. 2 losses back to back. You've got to go out and have a performance here, which will be an entertaining game, I think, on Friday.
Yeah, exactly, and that could play into our hands a little bit, because I do feel like we are when we try and take the game by the scruff of the neck, it very rarely plays out the way that we want it to play. We do tend to be better when the other team has it and we catch teams on the counter. So I think naturally Sunderland would probably want to have a bit more of the ball anyway, but I feel like given that they need a win, if they've got any sort of aspirations of getting top 2, or even just kind of settling the nerves and thinking, right, we've got playoffs here, they do need to beat us. And they'll be looking at us thinking, we've played some good football and everything else, but we're not picking up the results. They'll see this as kind of a, playing us at perhaps the right time. Do you know what I mean? From their point of view. Obviously, we will be speaking to Graham from the What the Folk podcast in midweek, so you can listen to that over on Patreon if you want to hear what the Sunderland fans are going to have to be saying. So we'll hear from them kind of how confident they are going into this one and how much those defeats have hurt them. Obviously, losing to Leeds, I think it's no disgrace, but I suppose they'd be disappointed losing to Hull. They wouldn't have expected that one. So I suppose it puts a little bit of pressure on them, really, to get something out of Friday's game. But yeah, I feel like it just comes down to, we've not got centre-backs coming back. Do you know what I mean? No. It's not like we can say, oh, yes, I hate it, man. I can't believe I'm saying this, but yes, Dom Iorfa is back. Or yes, Akin Famewo is back in centre-back. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't believe that we'll be saying those things, but it's not happening. No, they're not going to be back for this game on Friday, so we are stuck with playing, Michael Ekwa, Gabe Otabeo, Max Lowe, or whoever it's going to be of those. They are going to be playing there. It does, I do kind of wonder, like, do we just chuck Shea Charles in there? I don't know whether it's in his contract that he has to play defensive mid.
Defensive mid and drop into a back five.
I don't know. Yeah.
No, it's a really good question, because actually the one time that we have seen Shea Charles properly play, like a decent amount of football within the 90 minutes there was Derby away, and he was excellent in the second half because we thought we had a centre back crisis then. It's a really, really interesting option. I just personally feel you need the bite in the middle of the park, if that's going to make sense, to be able to really sort of like test that and go for it and kind of give yourself something really to kind of also look at from an attacking perspective, because Shea Charles is so effective for us when he's sorry, James, I know you disappeared. We've done a camera switch. There we go. But I think if you're looking at where Shea Charles plays best, me personally, I just think you just say to him, do you know what? You're going to play defensive midfield. The centre-halves are going to be what they're going to be. Your wing-backs, okay, we'll change out for Rio Hatsuse and Marvs will come in. It's going to be really interesting to see what we do in that position, because I just think, James, the reason why, we've talked for a number of weeks now, between both boxes, we're brilliant. We're one of the best sides in the league in between both boxes. The linchpin for that is Shea Charles. He is the reason. Bannon's had a wonderful season. Armstrong's looked good recently. But the rock at the heart of that this season has been Shea Charles. I think if you start mucking about and dicking about, chucking him back at centre-half here, you immediately go, all right, we can defend, but now we can't get out, because we've got nobody who's winning the ball in the middle of this, in the centre of the park. Because the alternative, if you're going to take out, let's say you put Shea Charles into that back line and you push Jan Valery out to right wing back or something like that. The alternative is Nathaniel Chalobah. Now, from what I've seen in the limited game time of Nathaniel Chalobah is two things. One, he'll only be able to do 45 minutes at most. And secondly, he's not quick enough to operate in that with a side that doesn't dominate the ball. Yeah,
it's not going to be great. Kind of whoever we choose in it is going to be, the best of a bad bunch, I feel. But we'll see. We'll see what happens on Friday. In terms of a score prediction, then, Matt, what do you feel? How do you feel it's going to go on Friday from a score point of view?
Do you know what, James? All the past couple of weeks, I've realised I've said 1-0, this, that. Do you know what? Fuck it, I'm throwing it out the window. 2-2 this on Friday. I don't see us having enough to beat them, and I do still think there's a soft underbelly there for us in terms of in terms of from a perspective of we will concede. But I can also see us scoring against Sunderland because they give you opportunities. Like every Sunderland game I've watched maybe 4 or 5, 6 maybe at tops. Every opposition has chances against them, aside from us on the second game of the season. Every single opposition has chances against them. I fancy a 2-2 on Friday.
I'm going to go for, there's going to be one game where it's all going to click. We had that against Plymouth. Maybe it's all going to... Maybe it's all going to click again. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win. I don't know where that's going to come from. 3-0.
Sorry,
3-0 win.
Let me just check that for the listeners, James.
3-0 win, yeah. Do you know what? They're going to have the same game as us on Friday. They're going to have a few chances, but they're just going to squander them. Beadle's going to be Oliver Kahn.
I hope you're right.
On Friday.
I hope you're right. Michael Eck was going to be Beckenbauer.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we're not going to keep a clean sheet, but I think we're going to score a few goals. It's going to happen at some point. We can't create this many chances, and they've lost the last 2 games as well. They'll be a little bit vulnerable. So let's see. Gary's just said James put 50p in the meter. I have no idea what's happening with his camera. It just keeps shutting itself off. So. I've no idea what's happening there. So anyone with any IT experience, do get in touch. Yeah, let's.
Please message him saying turn it off and on again.
That's what he's doing. Well, actually, it's not. It's turning off and it's not turning back on again. So I have no idea what the problem is. So, but yeah. Anyway, right. Let's wrap things up. Extra time is going to be coming up next. We have not got a clue what we're going to be talking about. So
we've got one incident to talk about, James, which is
yes.
social media related.
Yes.
For those who are interested, it's going to be the Wags, the Sheffield Wednesday Wags edition this week.
Yeah, so get over to Patreon if you want to hear that one. Patreon.com/WTID pod. The easiest thing to do is head over to Twitter, head over in the bio, and all the links are on there. There's also a link for some merch as well. So you can get, if you're watching on YouTube, you see the Wednesday, Carlsberg type Wednesday design that's on there, so you can get that one as well. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for everyone that's tuned in live to watch us. Reminder, we'll be talking to 1867 News, not the group, later on this week. Got loads of content coming for you. Debate show on Wednesday, a preview show that'll be Tuesday or Wednesday as well. So yeah, lots and lots to listen to and everything else. So thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you all next time. Cheers.